Welcome to this webinar on using the bulk upload function of CareConnect Supplier Portal. In this webinar, I will demonstrate how to use the bulk upload function to confirm, amend, or add service events. So on the portal unique to your organisation, we will choose two clients, Aaron Zuniga, and by clicking Command or Control, choose Alana Rowe as well. We will narrow the search to a particular month, and we will choose the first half of May 2017. Click Search, and it will bring up the records matching what it is that we require. What you can then do is click the Export button, and it will export data to Microsoft Excel. And the information that is shown is exactly the same as that on the portal. It has the start date and time, and the end date and time. The project ID, which is our client number, the client name as we have it recorded, our item number, the product name, which is the category name that we give to a particular service, the quantity, the unit price as advised by you to us for that particular service, the line amount, which is the calculation of unit price times quantity, whether the service attracts GST or not, if it does, what that GST amount is, and the total, which is the GST plus the line amount. The invoice ID would indicate if we had paid the recipient created tax invoice ID number that CareConnect has allocated to it, the payment due date, where the payment was due after we'd had supplier and client confirmation, and the payment date, which would be the actual date that we had paid you. Supplier confirmed is the column that you will need to change to yes, where you confirm that the service is delivered. So the status, as at when you downloaded the information from the portal, in this case they are open. IFA, the invoice for approval status, where a change has been submitted, it would indicate whether that's required or not. The transaction ID, we ask you do not touch anything in this because this is generated by our system for each line of data, and it enables us to recognise what you have confirmed back into our system. Vendor reference is the column that allows you to put up to 20 characters that will include information to assist you in reconciling back to your accounts and will appear on the recipient created tax invoice and remittance advice provided to you. Vendor start date is where you wish to change the start date and time. That will appear here. And the vendor end date will also be where you need to change that date and time. For a quantity entry, you can change the vendor quantity here. And validation is simply a warning message that comes to you after you've made some changes that indicates there's certain things that may be required. So as a supplier, in relation to the bulk download, the columns that are critical for you is confirming that the service has been delivered, including a vendor reference, if you're changing the start date and time, if you're ending the start date and time, or if you're changing the quantity. So let's go over to these entries for these clients. So in relation to the first line with Alana Rowe, there's 10 kilometres of service provider mileage that's listed here. So let's say that that was actually 20 kilometres. So what we would do is go over to column X, put in 20, and you'll see that there's an error message that comes up and says that the supplier confirmed is set to no. You'll need to change that to yes to confirm that you've actually delivered it, albeit that the quantity is different. In relation to the next two entries, let's assume that we have delivered those, and so we just wanted to change the status to yes. What you can do is simply copy down those two columns, those two rows, and that will be identified as a yes. And likewise, we'll do that to that row as well. In relation to the services delivered to Aaron Zuniga on the 10th, let's assume that they were actually done at a different time. What I would suggest is to actually copy the data that's here over to these columns, because that way it means that you will keep the same format. So what we're saying is that it started at a different time. So let's say it started at 9:30 a.m. and finished at 1 p.m. So not only did it finish at a different time, there is also a different quantity involved. And we'll need to click that we have confirmed delivery of that. In relation to the last two, let's assume that it was that the service was delivered again on a different date. Control and copy. And what we will do here is, let's say it started at 12. We need to change that to PM. And it was shorter, so it was only 2 hours. So we'll confirm yes that it's delivered. And in this case, because we're saying it's a different time that the whole service started, we'll need to change that to reflect the fact that it's started at 12 PM. And confirm that yes, it's been delivered. Now to add a service, let's assume that for Aaron there was also a service on the 12th of May. What I would recommend is copying the whole line, but you will need to take out the entries in this column, and we'll use the formatting of those to do that here. What you will also need to do is take out the transaction ID, because quite clearly the system will need to generate a new ID for this entry once it's approved. So we're saying that Aaron Zuniga received a service on the 12th of May. So we can go in and change the date. And that will be entered as a new entry. Do not worry about the error that's turning up here, because it hasn't got a transaction ID, that's why it's showing up. So now we're satisfied that we've made all those changes for those two clients. What we do is we save the file and close out. Back at the portal, we need to choose our batch file. And there it is there. So we upload it. The system will upload it into CareConnect's management system, and you will get an alert that says it is successfully submitted for processing. Some transactions have notes for review. We strongly encourage you to click the download results now. You are not able to do that after you leave this page. So by clicking it now, you will have a record of what services were taken up into the system, and it will indicate whether there's any errors. So the information that's here identifies that we've had some success, and it says an unscheduled transaction, which you may recall is the entry that we added. I recommend you save this so you've always got a record of it in the event that you need to follow it up with CareConnect. If we now move to the pending status for these clients for that period, you'll see the entries that have been taken up. And just as when you make a change directly on the portal, the information is in blue text because it means that a variation is submitted, or an IFA as we call it, and you can hover over to indicate what the original time and time period were in relation to this particular entry. As with the others, up until we have client confirmation or until the IFA is approved, you can actually unsubmit anything that's done in error. Data support is always available to you by ringing our care centre on 1300 966 170. You can also email our transactions team for any inquiries on client services, payment updates and the status of variations to transactions@careconnect.org.au, or for any inquiries on accessing the portal or technical issues you might be experiencing, contact procurement@careconnect.org.au. The user guide is available in your registration pack and is also on our website under www.careconnect.org.au/providers, which will assist you in using the portal. We do enjoy feedback that we get from providers, and we invite you to indicate how we can make this experience better for you. So please provide us with any feedback on how you use the client portal, in particular in relation to the bulk upload in this instance. Don't forget there are other webinars in relation to registration and navigation, submitting for payment on the portal directly, and also how to inquire about your service, the status of your submissions. Thank you very much for this webinar.